but as long as I know the definition of what this tower is all about and how it plays into the institutions that we approach, requesting that they place this product in their facilities. And what we're finding out in the state of Louisiana, there's 64 parishes. Now, there's not necessarily 64 jails because some of the parishes are too small, don't have the frequency or the ability to house the inmates. So I would say that you've got a good 55 in the state. Within the last 11 months, this tower now is in 27, set to be installed by the end of next week, 27 of those 55 units with no negative complaint. Now, what that does to the institution and the facility that it's placed in, it increases their operational capabilities of providing information to the people they have to deal with. Most of the time, the officers at these facilities are dealing with either the relatives, the friends, the lawyers, the bail bonds people that are coming in to help them out. And that organizational structure gets input into this digital kiosk and makes steady the usual chaos that was taking place in some of these facilities. Meaning when people come in, a correction officer doesn't have the time or the inclination to be able to answer every question they have. Our tower, once we put all of the input information that we want to put in there, including bail bonds agents for each one of the parishes, is then placed on the machine. Additionally, you can put in there normal standard practice procedures, emergency announcements, maybe because of holiday scheduling or what have you, that might change out. But it brings efficiency into the jailing facility. And that's a blessing. When I talk to the wardens or I talk to the sheriffs or the chief deputies, if you can clear up some of that chaos for them, anything helps out.
That's great. Well, I'm going to go right into the introductions and just for the listeners. And so hello, everyone, and welcome to the Shakedown, where we talk about the criminal justice system from the inside out. Our goal on this podcast is to explain how the criminal justice system works based on our personal experiences. I'm Ryan Forbes, aka Rainforest. I've studied sociology, criminology, victim advocacy, and spent 6 years in Texas prisons. I'm here with Aaron Malone, who is a published comic book artist and who has spent 30 years in Texas prisons. And I'm also here with Dave Brown, who has been in and out of prisons throughout his life and now likes giving back to the community any way he can, including sharing his experiences on this podcast. Tonight, we're very excited to have on a special guest. Paul Buckley has 40 years of experience in the hospitality industry with Hilton Hotels Corp. As retired senior vice president. He has been with Baumy Corp. For 9 years, retiring in 2014. An avid golfer. Currently, Paul works directly with all sheriffs and wardens of the Sheriff's Association of Louisiana, anticipating this solicitation to continue to involve Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida. And
we also have with us Ramses Merriman, the sales manager at Baumy Group.
I'm really excited about this because one of the big things that we like to do, as we talked about on the show, is explain to people who aren't in the know about the criminal justice system, like how it works. And I feel like your product, the Tower, it explains a part that not a lot of people have, a lot of everyday people have access to and would have an everyday understanding about. So I'm kind of curious, Paul, what got you into that and what inspired that?
Well, part and parcel was the innovative side of it came about through Rich Baumy, who's the principal of Baumy Group. And he brought this approach, if you will, that that is going to change the fashion in which jails and prisons are disseminating information to the public, the family, the friends at the facility. And they don't have to deal with complaints, or they're not going in and doing work that some of these patrons, if you will, should have been doing on their own. And when you bring that kind of relief to a facility, you're going to get a handshake from the warden or the sheriff almost every day. Believe it or not, some of the facilities, when we first went into them, were still hanging up on a bulletin board a legal-size yellow pad of paper, hand-printed, with a thumbtack stuck in the top of it. Now, that was 11 months ago. Now you've got the facilities who have taken on the tower into their facilities, and they're conveying in-house information or emergencies or what have you, or house rule changes almost at an instant's notice. So it's the passing on of information in a timely fashion.
It's crazy to think. I can imagine seeing the notepad in there, and I don't think I've ever had it that bad. Dave, have you ever had seen a notepad for
not a notepad, but I've seen something where somebody actually just went this is a long time ago, typed out everything, all these bail bondsmen, and then they made, they ran off 5,000 copies, and it was really dark. You couldn't read some numbers or whatever, and they would just tape it to the wall, and it would be in a holding tank, and some people would tear pieces of it off or whatever, and it was just, it was pretty ragged.
Yeah, it was chaotic.
Yes.
And what they're finding out is you're bringing some semblance of order into play. Now, a lot of times you'll hear at some of these facilities where the bail bonds people are upset because their name's not coming up often enough. This, on a rotating basis, changes daily. So everybody gets a free shot, not necessarily in alphabetical order, but it's rotating all the time.
Yeah.
And it eliminates all of that crisis situation that some of them want to bring about. Somebody's getting favoritism or being treated differently when in fact they're not.
Well, you get locked up and you've never been locked up before, and then you're basically, you want to get out, you need to make a phone call, you get to make a phone call, and you're trying to get out, and then you look at this list, and then your choices are AAA bonds, AAB bonds, AAC bonds, and if your name is XYZ bonds, yeah.
They all start with A.
Yeah, they all start with A. If you're XYZ bonds, you're not getting any business. So it's crazy. I didn't understand it for a long time why everything was called A bonds.
I didn't either, but Ryan was explaining your system to me with that, and I was like, oh, so it all clicked. It made sense. I was like, that's why they all start with A.
So yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead, Paul. Yeah, definitely.
Well, and it's what happens is when imitation is the greatest form of flattery. When someone sees you've got something that innovative and it's new, they want it. And then they're almost like cousins. They'll call each other and say, "Hey, you got to take a look at this. This has straightened out our entry or receiving area in the facilities themselves immensely."
Right. That's one of the things I saw about it too, is that then there's no one, you're taking care of the actual list. It's not someone inside, that's has to do the work side of it. Then it's not one more thing that they've got to do. So they might, whereas before the list might not get updated since the 90s. You are going to, and you're going to call it, and that number might not go anywhere. You actually have an updated list, and to make sure that these are actual numbers and these are people who want to be represented on there, on this. Yeah.
In the old days, in the recording business, they used to call it payola.
Yeah.
Now there's no payola going on. Everybody gets an at-bat, and it's in an orderly fashion.
That's pretty cool.
It's not going to be intercepted or misused or abused.
Yeah, that's
Has this led to a
that's
like
really.
what was that?
No, go ahead, Malone.
Is there any kind of statistics on how this is maybe has led to an increase in bail being made at all, or
I couldn't give you numbers regarding success or failure. All I can tell you is that it's expedited a lot of what used to be previously disrupted entry and trying to find out who's next up.
all right.
And the family, the clients or whoever, they can go over and they can utilize tabs on this tower to dig out other information that they may want to find out about. But it won't be the correctional officer that's doing it. It'll be the user.
Right. It's not a correct. Is it, or I don't know if it's within the job description of a correctional officer to offer that kind of information. Anyways, is it?
No, I don't believe it's in their handbook.
Yeah.
Ramses, you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from as far as like the feedback that we've received from it, it kind of allows the correction officer and whomever the administrators are to actually like do their job. Like, imagine imagine you're a cook, but now you have to deal with like a bunch of calls coming in all the time. You don't really have time to stand there and cook because you're consistently dealing with, these inbound calls. And also, just physically making a list every single day and going in something like Microsoft Word and then just randomizing like everything. It's just, for someone like myself, I think that's an incredibly like, tedious task. And that's kind of that was the whole idea behind the tower, is just, it was simply to just randomize the bonds list. Now we've evolved since then, and now we can steer people to other services too. Let's say if there's like some kind of addiction treatment, which is pretty prevalent in addiction is pretty prevalent in some of these jails. Now that inmate has a chance to see like an addiction services or or something that would help them get a job, or just like any type of service that would be beneficial to them, that we could put all that information on the board, and they could interact with it, they could see the number, and like you were saying before, it's not necessarily the correctional officer's job to be a phone book. We're essentially becoming like a digital phone book for services.
And I'll tell you one humorous side. I won't name the parish and I won't name the warden or the sheriff. But he threatened me. He said, if you call this number one more time, I'm going to lock you up.
Oh.
And I said, oh, my goodness gracious. That's one of those you got to get out and press the flesh and get to meet him, Ultimately, when I went out and I visited him about 3 weeks ago, he ordered 2 towers.
Oh, nice.
So, Harris County now has, because Aaron Rock runs their commissary system and whatnot, and they have tablets in every dorm in the entire jail system, and it has like they can look up how much money they have in their commissary account. They make their orders for commissary through the tablet. Then there's also information they have when I was there, they had like church information. Like if you wanted to go to church, they had the hours.
Scheduling for
yeah, but it had
functions within the jail.
It was very minimal about what they offered on the tablets, but the tablets were mounted to the wall behind glass, all that, and but yeah, they have them. So that's what I was curious about. With the tower system, do they go in like a public area, or do they go into
in discussion with some of the sheriffs and wardens, they prefer not to put it in the inmate areas. They prefer it out in the, I guess you'd call them working areas, where the family, friends.
For friends and family.
Yeah, more for depositing money into the commissary, more for taking care of that type of business.
Okay.
That's interesting.
Yeah, we've seen some of. I mean, we've talked to some of these like some of. I mean, we work like side by side with some of these like commissary type companies too. Um, the tablets they have are more like they're specifically for like commissaries. That's not really why ours was made. But also with the with those, they're more for service of the sorry about that. They're more for how do I say this?
For the company that's
Yeah,
providing them,
yeah,
basically. Right?
yeah. Um, and also this is something that they actively, sell to the jail itself. We don't actually sell this to the jail. We give it to them for free and just
Okay.
subsidize it. Yeah.
Really?
We
I
don't
mean,
want,
so
yeah. Yeah, I know. People are surprised when I say we give it to the jails for free.
I'm not. I get it. So I mean, it's you. You make your money on the back end off of the deal.
Yeah, exactly. We'd rather subsidize it with the ads that bondsman and a lawyer and something like a bondsman or a lawyer could, just essentially pay to be there because they're actually limited in where they can advertise. Like they can't really do much digital ad. They can't like have a Facebook ad or like
I
an
never even thought
Instagram
about
ad.
that.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. And this is right for them, it's beneficial because it's right where they're, it's right in front of their target audience.
No, well, definitely.
Yeah.
And it
Um,
relieves a lot of pressure.
captive audience.
Yeah, it relieves a lot of pressure of people that are desiring more information or further guidance or direction. This helps them out tremendously.
Yeah, that's tremendously helpful. I'm surprised they can't do Facebook ads, especially like I know in Texas you'll see all around the prisons you'll see billboards like for bondsmen, or at least I remember them a long time ago when I was growing up. I'd see them all over the place, but I don't know if they still have them. But
You still see them here, like around Houston.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, they do. As you pull into most of these parish facilities, there are sideboard road signs, not necessarily full-size billboards, but all signage pointing toward bail bonds availability.
Yep.
So yeah, that's interesting that that's that's funny that they can't advertise on there. But that is really helpful, and it's helpful. Like I said, most families and everything, they don't know what to do in that situation. So it's good to have some guidance.
Yeah, and the families, they see the billboard, whatever, A better bail bonds, so they're going to call them. That's the first place they're going to call,
Right.
Because they're like, oh, I got to bond him out of jail. We're going to see him in jail. Oh, I'm going to call that. Oh, there's a billboard. Hey, I'm going to call them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Some of the jailers have commented that some of the inmates know the numbers by heart.
Well, I mean, they probably used them repeatedly.
Yeah.
That's a whole different problem.
I once had somebody needs to give him the rehab number.
I had a lawyer who was also a bondsman, so he would bond you out.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he had a bail bonding company, and he was a lawyer.
And that the legal services are something that will appear on the TOWRs too, right? For people who, like, if someone wants to put legal service, like, say, we offer these legal services too.
Yeah, we have multiple like criminal lawyers that advertise on the TOWRs in some of these parishes. By the way, for those not familiar with Louisiana, what we call a parish, you would refer to as a county.
Okay.
It took me some getting used to when I moved here too.
Man, I lived in New Orleans for about a year, and I had to leave. I was a raging alcoholic by the end of that year.
Yeah, you fall one way or the other here.
Yeah, New Orleans and Decatur Street. I mean, it was bad.
You're picking the right spot.
Yeah.
Paul and I not far from there at all.
No. But outside my front door.
Yeah.
But it has been received extremely well by the facilities, and especially by the officers. Not so much more the rank and file than the officers, saying this is really helping us out.
Yeah.
What are they noticing when they have the towers in there?
Well, they're noticing that their jobs are a lot easier. They're not having to answer a bunch of questions or being bothered to ask a bunch of questions about stuff that they're not required to even have answers for, or may not even have answers for.
Exactly, and that's why pointing them over toward the tower for the informational tabs that they can seek themselves information that they might want to ask for.
Have y'all had any ideas about how to introduce this into prisons in general, or maybe, or are y'all only interested in jails?
Well, I think what happens here is the most of the sales are with bail bonds people or lawyers. And for the most part, once somebody's incarcerated, they're done with the bail bonds people and they're done with the lawyers. They received the sentence, now they got to go serve it.
Well, I can see how it could be useful in the prison system. So where somebody going to visit somebody or whatever, it's in a lobby to where, it has all the, this is what you do to visit somebody. And then even far as for advertising, if somebody, hey, you need to put money on your people's books or whatever, how it could be integrated into like a prison unit.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. I'm not really certain. There's not as much competition for services in prison as there are out, for jails and all that with bails, bondsmen, and lawyers. You're right. But as far as how it could aid the facility and the daily functions and so forth, I mean, what you're describing, he said, I was in prison for 30 years, and in Texas prisons, they're still just. They don't use a thumbtack but they staple pieces of paper to a bulletin board and for all their information, and it's an extremely inefficient and a confusing system, and it leads to a whole lot of problems with daily operations there. And I would think that the facilities would be run much smoother, and that the staff and inmates, for that matter, would appreciate a similar system if I could find some kind of way to monetize it there.
Yeah. David, what it does, it eliminates all of the madness that goes on. Those people that don't have answers. Well, it's right over there on the tower. Search it out.
Exactly.
Yeah. Are you offering to get it in some of these places for us, David?
I mean, if I could get it, I'm a hell of a salesman, but
Dave's your guy. Trust me.
One of the things we did fail to mention earlier is we do actually have one in Texas right now. It's in Smith County.
Now that's close to Louisiana, right?
Yeah, and then we also have one. In Cherokee County in Oklahoma. So we have branched out a little bit, but it's just, we went to one. We went to one show, like one sheriff show in one conference in Louisiana and Baton Rouge, and we got like so much interest just from that we've just kind of like, that's why we just kind of nailed down and started working with Louisiana. Now we are going to another one in Oklahoma on October 2nd, and then we'll be going to another one in Florida on November 7th. So we are starting to branch out now. I will say one thing: the testimonials from the sheriffs do help quite a bit. They tend to like it, so then their cousin states will hopefully start to adopt it also.
I can see how that totally would work. And now, like, different counties will adopt it from, say, one county, and they're like, "Oh, well, we got this," and it just keeps on growing.
Yeah, and also they like the fact that it's we take care of everything. It's no cost to them at all. Even just from like a security concern, because we thought this might come up, we don't even we don't even run it on the network. We just run it on cellular also. That way we're going over the security concerns also.
That's very interesting.
I never even thought about that. No, that's all right.
My imagination is running wild right now. all the stuff you could put on one of these things that would aid a facility in one way or another, just to end arguments in day rooms over sports. Yeah, like exactly how many games did Michael Jordan win?
One thing I can say is that there are lawyers that are specifically targeted for like people who are in prison. So like there's parole. Like I remember when I was in the trustee camp, like everyone's looking for a parole attorney, and you have
right. I remember that.
Yeah, you have no idea how to find one, and there's like a whole. Those would be people who would be willing to pay to get inmate eyes on them, and then especially if they could send that information directly to their people. And then the other one is for, there are services that are only for inmates, like pen pal services. There's like 100 different pen pal services, and it like the only way you can usually inmates only find out about them through prison legal news, but then like you have to pay for them, and they would, if they had advertisements in the day room, they would love that. So that might be another way to do that. There's pen pals, there's places that send photos, which I don't know if they can do anymore, but those are,
you can't send the risque photos, for lack of better words.
Yeah.
Depending on what system you're in.
Texas.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I am somewhat familiar with like the pen pal services and the and like these photo services. I think there's this one company called Flick Shop, I want to say it's called.
Sounds like a photo. Yeah, that sounds like one of the photo ones for just send you a big stack of pictures.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I also just took notes so tomorrow our advertisers will be reaching out to all these parole attorneys. So thank you for that, Ryan.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. That's a great one for you. I mean, because
Sure.
These parole attorneys are, I mean, they're it's insane what they're charging some of these people, but I mean, so they'll pay for the advertising, that's for sure.
Okay.
And that's honestly, that was parole attorney is what helped me get me out, and so I was I'm all for it. If you can find a good one, it's totally worth it. A lot of people will vouch by them. It's just hard. You just don't know. It's hard to find them when you're looking on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that's, like if you had a kiosk, I can see how that could be beneficial on the unit. If, because I've gone to visit people in prison, and it's like when you go, I don't know what's going on. When first time I went to visit somebody, I'm lost, and if you had a kiosk there, and you could, and you're like, oh, what is this? It's an ad about a parole lawyer. Oh, well, my son, whoever needs a parole lawyer, whatever. I can see how that could be beneficial.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
But even just more so just on the information.
Yeah, we do think. Go ahead, Paul. I'm sorry.
It's definitely a new lead or a new direction to take it in, but they'd be all over that like flies on new manure.
Great. We have go ahead, Ramsey.
Oh no, I was just saying Paul has a way with words. Oh, Paul didn't mention to you that the sheriff that threatened to arrest him, they're best friends now.
That's how that works, though.
I use him as my.
He said it jokingly. If he does hear this, by the
way, I use it as my wedge now. He's my wedge going in.
Nice. We have go for it, Paul.
No, once he saw the value of it, and he saw how it fit, especially into his facility, he just loved it.
Right. Yeah.
I can imagine.
I'm curious to know though, how did you decide to get going with this, and how to get it started, or how did the idea for this come about?
Ramses, you want to take that?
Oh, you're better at taking that one.
Well,
go ahead, Paul. You take that one.
Let me back up a second. The principal of the Baumy Group, Rich Baumy, is rather ingenious. He started his career out at 16 years old working for his uncle in an ATM facility that he owned. and he can take an ATM machine apart and put it back blindfolded. And he's extremely innovative. His father is the assistant chief superintendent at St. Bernard Parish in Louisiana. And they got to talking about how to improve the facilities for the sheriff's department. And one of the sore spots that they found out was the receiving reception area of a jail. People are confused, they're upset, don't know where to turn, don't know who to turn to. And they started toying with it. Then sat down and formulated the digital computerized side of what offerings could be put up on the table. And once you start kicking it around and not making jest, but that idea of a parole lawyer, you should have thought about that a long time ago. That's a good one to add to the portfolio of what can be recognized off of the kiosk. And again, imitation is the greatest form of flattery. If you've got something that's going to improve your operation, and it's not going to cost you anything, take a long, hard look. Take a long, hard look. And that's why I say, out of the 27, 25 we have in play now, 27 by the end of the month, when you've got 27 people with that kind of diligent background who are going to pass on information back and forth to each other, they're not going to fool with something that doesn't work. If it works, they're going to go for it.
Is what you're dealing in primarily just the hardware side of it, or is there a software side of it that y'all? I mean, in other words, if they already had something like something similar to that already in place, would y'all still be able to add something to whatever they already have there by your? I mean, would you have something to offer that?
So potentially yes, but we probably wouldn't do it, and here's why. When it comes to things like digital signage, a lot of places will have some company that sold you the hardware and another company that's running the software, or it's being done manually. What's really good about us is we're completely turnkey. We run the hardware, we run we run the software. So now, if something goes wrong, the burden's on us to fix it. If we're not running if we're using somebody else's hardware, we become dependent on them. If there's something faulty within their hardware, and we're running the software on the back end, now we don't know, and then we don't know what's going on. We just like to have control over both the hardware and the software. And like I said, with the whole thing with us is just ease of use and being turnkey. What if somebody else has hardware in there and then somebody breaks it or something knocks over? I mean, we have no control over that. If somebody decides to knock the tower over and it breaks, hasn't happened yet. I'm hoping to keep it that way, but now that I said now when it does happen, I'll come on your show again and talk about it. But like say tomorrow one of these, something happens, somebody decides they get angry and push it over or something like that. I'm like, okay, well, now we can send one of our guys to fix it. We'll get it up and running within the day, maybe the next day, depending on the time. We can't do that with somebody else's equipment.
That makes a lot of sense. But I've encountered a lot of this in my time in prison. Whenever some services is introduced to any kind of, whether it's a jail or a prison or whatever it is, oftentimes various people like to get their hands in the pie and all that type of thing. There's politics that get involved and all that. Or someone. So I was just kind of wondering, if someone else decided that they wanted, they see the potential of it, that they might be able to sell one side of it or the other. But what you're saying makes a lot of sense. I mean, I can understand now why that's a better system to have one person running both sides of the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Have y'all ever encountered anything like that? I mean, did y'all have to make bids on this before y'all could get or what?
No, because we essentially offer it as a free service. We've never really, we haven't been met with too much resistance. Once in a while we'll get something like, there's not enough room, but a lot of those, but we don't have to bid on anything because we're not actually selling anything.
Okay.
And then it's not like we're, it's not like these commissary companies or some other like monitoring company to where the jail actually has to purchase them. We don't actually sell them anything. Because of the advertisements we put on, we never really have to bid on anything, or we just have to get permission.
And it's getting to the right person. A lot of times you go in on a cold call to a sheriff, you're going to be little pushback there. But if you go in and you go after the warden, or you go after the chief deputy, and get an opportunity to buttonhole them and start conversing with them about the advantages of it, they catch on real quick. And most of the times you hear, I'm looking for the right moment to go in and see the sheriff and present it to him. And then next thing you know, it's going up to legal for clarification, and they're on and running.
Oh, all right.
I can
Paul
see.
is very, and Paul is very, very, very persistent.
We have a good time.
The threat of being jailed.
Even the threat of being jailed.
I can see like sheriffs and even wardens occasionally, even when you're offering something for free, being like, "Oh, you're going to change something? No, thank you. I don't need that in my jail." Like I can definitely see that territorial like attitude there for sure. And it's
I see a snowballing effect taking place where they're exchanging information. Those that have are now explaining to the others that don't have, hey, you got to take a look at this. This is advantageous.
The more they put in place, the easier it is to get these things in other facilities, right?
That's right. And you start naming some of the larger parishes or even some of the smaller parishes, because sometimes they think they're being left out. But if they have a certain number of beds in there, that's going to make their life a lot easier by having something controlling the issues. Have at it.
Excellent.
Well, I know we don't have a whole lot of time left. So are there any closing thoughts or questions that anybody has?
Well, you might want to keep Dave and Malone's telephone numbers handy. We might be coming back at them with some questions.
There we go.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have a lot. I have a lot of questions for you guys, by the way.
Oh, great. Well, we can stay on the line.
I don't know if I want I don't know if I want those questions going public. I don't know.
Okay.
Right?
Fair enough.
No, that being said, I mean, I was joking, but we do partner with a lot of companies. That being said, we're always looking for new affiliate partners. Anyone that wants another product to their suite that doesn't necessarily, that you don't really have to sell or don't have too much pushback, always willing to listen.
It sounds like y'all have the easiest product in the world to sell. Actually, it's free. I mean,
but like Ryan said, some people do not adapt change. But
a big obstacle we have is getting past all the gatekeepers, getting to the decision maker that can actually pull the trigger on it and make the choice, make the decision.
That's right. That's right. That's just what happens. The sheriff looks at it and says, gives it to the lieutenant colonel. Lieutenant colonel gives it to the chief and deputy, hands it to the warden and says, well, you guys come back to me with what your decision should be.
Yeah.
That's where you put the sell on.
Yeah, and it gets, but I mean, in that process, I can see it getting lost, or I see lots of follow-up calls to trying to sell this thing to, a parish.
I think once you've done it a couple of times, though, the process kind of gets streamlined. You know where the rubs are, so it's pretty easy to navigate. It's a matter of sticking it out,
You almost do it by rote. You almost do it by rote. You're absolutely correct. You start getting into a groove and you're explaining it. Then you see the light go on in their eyes. They go, oh, I get it. I see now.
I mean, it happened to me this evening. It's like, oh, you know.
Happens to me all the time.
Fair enough.
Well, we thank you for the opportunity of being able to come on and explain ourselves.
Thank you so much for making the time and coming on. It's been great having you. And we will have links in the description so people can check it out, see the tower actually and everything. And if any affiliates or anyone is interested in becoming an affiliate, how they can get a hold of you. So that's great. And thank you so much for explaining this, because I think it's very helpful. Like, I think it gives people a unique understanding of what happens in jails and things as well, which is really nice.
The email is the BaumyGroup.com. My name, first initial, last name, Ramses, same thing, last name, BaumyGroup.com.
Great. I'll put it in there. Thank you so much. And
all right, folks.
Yeah, have a good one.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you. All right, folks. Nice meeting you.
All the success in the world.
Nice meeting you, Paul.
All right, folks.
The Shakedown was produced in luxurious Longmont, Colorado. Envato Elements provided our theme song, Shakedown. If you want to support us, you can find Shakedown shirts, hoodies, and more at waywordpress.com. That's WAYWORD press.com. If you have ideas for future episodes or cool stuff you want to see us make, let us know in the comments on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at GetTheShakedown.